Well, I'm excited to be here. I found out we've traveled from the same place, which is London. Next to me is, well, Emmanuelle. She's not only an author on the topic of product and user research, but she's also released her own podcast. So if today is something that totally interests you, I highly recommend signing up to her podcast afterwards. There's about 8 episodes, I think you said.
Nine.
9 even. And I'm excited that she will be presenting today on her own experience. Dr. Emmanuelle Savarit.
Thank you so much. So, hi everyone, how are you doing? You know, it's like lunchtime. Did you all have a great lunch? Did you all have a good time so far? Great. So let's get going. So there's quite a lot to cover today, and I try to make sure that I'm not running like a Speedy Gonzales. So hi, I'm Emmanuelle. So as I was people mentioned, so I'm French, as you can hear from my accent, but I've been living in London for a long time. I'm a UX researcher. Some people call me one of the veterans because I've been there for such a long time. So sometimes I think got so many gray hair now about the UX research field. But it's super interesting. I'm very happy to be here today. And please also to represent JustEatTakeaway.com, which is an amazing company which I've been starting working for last 5 months. And honestly, amazing people are working in this organization. It's just a big change for me. So who is JustEatTakeaway.com? It is a great company which is global now. It was a merge of several startups, and we are around 20 markets. We've got 692,000 restaurant partners. We have around 90 million end user customer, which is huge, you know, and it's an amazing company. And you can see there is a fantastic team of 15,000 people with over 100 nationalities, such of an inclusive company. We are all over the place, with all over people speak all the different languages. So for once, I don't feel embarrassed to speak with my French accent. So let's look at what is JustEatTakeaway.com. We are in all those different markets, different names. So Lieferando in Germany, Just Eat in the UK, Takeaway.com. I won't pronounce the Dutch one because honestly, I tried yesterday, but I think it's I'm struggling to pronounce it. But we're in Canada, Luxembourg, Belgium, Bulgaria, Netherlands, USA, Slovakia, Austria, Poland, Canada, Germany, Austria, Australia, and New Zealand, and in Europe, Spain, Denmark, Switzerland, as well as France, Ireland, UK, and Italy. So it's a great, great place. We are everywhere, delivery food for people to be able to enjoy food, which is at the center of everyone's life, actually. So let's move to the real topic. But before that, if you are looking for a job, we've got few openings at the moment, which are in engineering, which are in UX, as well as product management. So anyone who is looking for a job, very interested to work for this amazing company, just reach out the truck outside on your right, on my right. So on your left, so you can actually see the team, which are amazing, and they will give you all the information about those openings. We've got several ones across different locations, so please feel free to speak to everyone there. So what about the topic today? We want to talk today, I really want to talk about a topic which is very close to my heart. It's inclusivity. Inclusivity in research is very important. And actually, with the evolution of technology over the years, as you can see on those candles, you know, the light bulbs, you know, all technology had such a fast evolution in the last 30 years, and it went so fast. Where originally, products like computer were dedicated and designed. What I mean design is I mean created for engineers, data scientists, and researchers. So something has really, really changed, because now, actually, products are used, and computer are used by everyone. So democratization of the use of technology is everyone is using a mobile phone. Everyone in this room got a mobile phone. Do you think that 30 years ago everyone had a mobile phone? No. So computers are used by everyone. Different location, you can be anywhere, you got a mobile phone. Digital products and services are in the center of everyone's life. Of course, you order food. You may also do e-government transaction, like applying for a visa. You may do your tax return. You may apply for your passport or renew your passport online. All those things are done online, as well as ordering food, of course. Grocery or takeaway is now done through your mobile devices. Also, as you can see, replacing human by machine. It's not like replacing systematic tasks, actually. Systematic tasks and something which is repetitive by machine. So we can be much more efficient and the human can concentrate on something which is more intellectual, for example, or more strategic. So that also changed a lot in all the different sectors of activities. And when you look at profession, like medicine, now actually a surgeon, they don't open the body. They've got tools actually opening the body for them. And they are much more precise than actually a human. You remove all the human errors. Same thing with aeronautics. Aeronautics, now you can fly your plane remotely, or you can actually land your plane without doing anything with the autopilot. And you can see that now when you order food, you don't pick up your phone. You pick up your phone, but not to speak to someone, to actually do your transaction. And in other sectors, like finance, do you really think the traders are trading manually and doing all the calculation now? Everything is a lot of automation. So they are just here for the quality control. So all those things have been very important over the years. So why it is important to make digital product accessible for all? Because end users are everyone here. It could be also someone who have special needs, like are visually impaired. It could be also because someone is elderly and they need also to have access to those digital products. You may also have someone living in a field, a farmer. They also need to have access to digital devices and helping them to do their job. You may also have, when you work, you work around the computer in a workplace. You may also need to access people remotely to do collaboration or have video conference. Also, people may have other type of disability, so it needs to be really inclusive. Also, people who are on their bike making a delivery, they also need to be able to access the product, so we need to make it for them too. So that also a restaurant or a coffee shop owner or staff, they also need to be able to access stuff directly from their own environment. So this is very important to understand that end user are everyone, where before it was only people who had high education, scientists, engineering, and researchers. So it's a big gap now. We need to make sure that it's accessible for everybody. So UX research helps us to understand human behavior and the user needs, as well as the motivation of the end user when they are using actually and interacting with the product. This is very important to understand that actually when someone is interacting with a product, there is everything around them, which is important. What motivates them? What is their intrinsic motivation to interact with the product? But also, what is their ecosystem? What is the perception of the product? What is really their need? What do they need to be able to use this product? And it could be, like I said, any type of product. So what we do as a UX research. UX research is using quantitative and qualitative research method to identify and evaluate how people and end users are interacting with your product. So we are not just doing usability testing. We do far more than that. We have so many different tools at our disposal actually to collect the right data. And we use mixed method. So we use qualitative to really see the essence of the world, what's really happened, and to understand why. And the quantitative is really top-down, where you actually get a larger sample, you validate a hypothesis. But both, there's no one better than the others. They need to work hand in hand to have the full story and to have a 360. So in short, you may have the analytics, then after you do the qualitative, and then you can validate your finding with a survey. This is really what we do. So, impact of technical evolution to UX research. That's very interesting, because I remember years ago when I started, and when you had to do field work, it was quite an expedition, okay? But the impact of technology to the overall UX world is like data collection and tools and software have changed dramatically. Analysis of the data also have changed a lot, how we analyze data. There's collaboration. It's you can't really compare collaboration you are doing now and the possibilities and how you were collaborating in the past. Storage of data, my God, I spend my life carrying my data on an external hard drive, even on floppy disk. Most of you were not even born actually using floppy disk. I had some data on my floppy disk, and then you need to put it as well. It's too big, and you start doing video, and you have to have an external hard drive, which were huge and massive. You used to carry in your suitcase when you were collecting data. So now you've got everything in the cloud, but big difference. And another thing, reachability of the participant. Before, we need to spend a lot of time getting access to the users. So now it's much easier actually to reach out to people. And of course, time and cost, very big difference, because when we used to travel all the time, the cost of a flight to the other part of the world to collect data, people didn't do the research at the other part of the world because it was far too expensive. Only the big organization could do it. So, before, we had limited internet connection. We had lack of collaboration tool for people to interact with other members of the team if they were in different locations. Research was time-consuming, not only to prepare, but collect the data. We used to send documents when we were doing collaboration. We used to attach the document, waiting for the feedback, had the V1, they send the V2, and they send it back. So now we are on the cloud, we can work together, it's much more collaborative. We had limited tool to capture data with a lot of complexity. I remember the first time I did an eye tracking, my God, it's a specific monitor with a lot of cable everywhere. The calibration was taking hours. Now you can just put a little bar in front of you, calibration, 1, 2, 3, calibrate. You can be on your laptop, you can go anywhere, and you can do eye tracking. Things have changed dramatically. Mobile research are also changed a lot. Now we can record interaction directly and share it with the participant, where we couldn't do it before. We had like a Dr. Topi on top to put something and put a camera on top of it, or we used to put something very intrusive, or to be with a video camera to film the person interacting with the product. So things are really much lighter, actually, and far less intrusive to do it with the end users. The geographic distance, like I said, going to Australia, now we can just click on a Zoom or Google Drive or whatever, Google Meet, and you can just connect with someone and have a session with them. Access to people to complete survey. How many times, if people been in the UK, but when you got tube station or underground or subway, people waiting outside to have people to complete the survey. This is very old-fashioned. Now you can just send a survey and people can just complete it in their own time. So also, it's much better to do it. The response rate may not be as good as when you are waiting outside the tube station, but anyway, it's much lighter for the researcher to conduct the research. Now, we've got online platform tools for so many things. We can do remote research, amazing. We've got mobile research, which is much easier. We've got online participant panel, because recruiting participants before was so hard. Now people can just register to a recruitment agency, and actually we can access them, or we can send email directly to them. But before, it was almost like knocking at their door and try to access the participant and bring them to a lab. So the location was quite limited. We've got social media, which is great to reach out people, and it's also we've got user analytics and tracking tools. Now we can have dashboards which are all prepared based on the question we want, and we can extract all the data. So it's amazing. So the advancement of technology have democratized user research, making it much more accessible, scalable, and inclusive. Technology also improved the data collection. Like when you see video recordings, which I did like when I did my PhD, it's like horrible quality of data. Now you've got HD video, you can see any details, it's amazing. You can also see the screen recording where people are navigating through the screen, where before you couldn't do that. You were trying to interpret, look at the gesture, where they put the mouse. It was a bit quite chaotic. And we've got a lot of accessibility tools now to identify if our tools, everything we are building, are actually accessible. So, look, lab setting. Before, we used to bring people in lab all the time. That's a typical example. We had to plan the session. People had to commute to get to the lab. We had to make sure they were on time, and we could do the session. Now, you just click. You can be on your mobile. You can even do distance remote testing. So it's great. You can manage to do session during COVID with traders, they were all working from home. It was very easy to access the traders. They could just do all their trading on the side, and I could be on the phone with them and ask them how they were interacting with the product. Before I had to go to the trading floor. In between the trade, I had to sit next to them. I had to spend time, make sure, then I could see the data. It was very tricky. amazing, actually, to be on trading floor. But the same thing. Now we can also spend time with courier, and we could go with them. But we can also speak with them and just send them some messages and do chat with them, and they can give us some feedbacks as we go along. It's something which is much more interactive and much faster. In person, we used to do so many things in person to look at, what was their context, what they wanted to do, how they were interacting with the product. The remote testing is amazing. I think it really changed, and especially through the COVID, there's at least something positive about COVID is we managed to move everyone online, so it's very easy now to access end users. Paper form, like I said earlier, online form, as you can see. Access to participant, like I said earlier, it's much easier now to reach out the participant because we can have panels of people. It could be anyone, actually. You got the email, through LinkedIn, through social media, you can access the participant. So what are the limitations of technology? Because there is some limitation. It's great, we can have access to users, we can spend time with the participant remotely, but you can see we've got some limitation. You can imagine we've got some limitation, actually, when we conduct our research. So we are missing the context by using remote tool. You miss out on the ecosystem of the end users and their expression, their emotion while using and interacting with the product. So that's a big issue because the context is so important, especially when you do qualitative research. You need to understand what's going on around them, to understand where they are sitting, what is their overall ecosystem. But we're missing that. So we're missing it, and what are the consequences? The consequences are that it's eliminating any unpredicted avenue. So you can't have something jumping out of you. You can't see if there's something on their desk, maybe interacting, if they are using another tool, because you just see what they are sharing with you. So you remove all the things which is hidden, but it is in their own environment. It's not always accessible for everyone. So if someone is not computer savvy, you won't have them as a participant. So you are not inclusive in this matter. For example, government in the UK, they've been working on doing a route for people who have accessibility issues. It's not because they've got handicap, it's just because they don't know how to use computer, or they may have a phobia of using a computer. So they created an alternative route for doing all the paperwork and everything as a citizen, to enable those people actually to interact with the product and to make sure we can meet their needs. So this is excluding sometimes people, and we need to be very careful not to be exclusive. We need to make sure we are inclusive in the way how we are building a product. We are not always taking the cultural differences because, it's important to understand when you go and do the field work, you see the culture. I remember once I did for one of the bank, I tried to test some mobile phone application, and they all developed it for iPhone. And when I arrived there, I spent some time in the subway and things like that, and they were all using Android. Great. So, we miss out so much. So after I said, let's work more, do the research first, understand what is the needs of the user, what are the trends and the cultural differences. So the main question now is how technology could help us to get better data and provide insight that actually help us to develop better product, tools and services which are usable for all. We don't want to exclude anyone. So how the technology now can help us to move forward to create even better products which are even more inclusive. So first of all, as you know, because all of us are working in tech, we've got so much data. We don't know what to do with the data because we have issues to organize our data. So probably to find a way where we can better reuse our data or just use our data to be able to create some way and categorization when you can go back to it. Because normally we use that much data and it's a whole iceberg of data. So let's try to focus on how we can use all this iceberg part and you can't see, because they are so valuable as well. So actually, technology can help us to reorganize our data and elevate and all the knowledge we have without knowing we've got it. That will save us a lot of time. Privacy and security, very important. We spend a lot of time collecting data about our users, about you. This is your data. what do you expect from us to do with your data? You want to be sure that we are not sharing the data around. Your data are protected. Whether is it ID, whether is it financial data, whether it is your face because we use video recording, what you want to make sure that actually the data that we are using are highly protected and secured. And I think that we need a lot of effort from a technological point of view, where we can, for example, when we use a video recording, to have something very quick to remove the identity of the users. So it can be recognized, because you got other tools we can even help to recognize the face recognition. So always try to find the right balance so you keep your data and the data of your end user safe. Let's go to something which I really like, virtual reality. For example, you want to see someone in a kitchen doing their cooking. You want to understand how they interact actually in their natural setting. How could you capture the data? And or if you want to do a lab experiment, you miss out all the realities, the noise, you may, the shouting, maybe they've got music, maybe, everything, they may not have much space, you need to understand their environment. If you create a virtual reality environment, you can still test, and they still have the perception, actually, they are in their natural working environment. That's quite interesting. Years ago, I did some work when I was still an academic in operating theater. They tried to recreate an operating theater to test actually how the surgeon may react under a lot of stress. So we had like actors working and banging things and stuff. It was quite incredible to see how they interact. But we recreated this environment. Now we can recreate with a virtual reality. We don't have to have all this very expensive environment. You can just recreate the environment so they feel they are in their natural environment. So then we can actually get much better data and see their reaction. So virtual reality provide the context. Augmented reality is great because you can already have your environment. You can already have your screen, and the user can interact every day on those screens using those devices. But if you could use the augmented reality, you can try to pretend and try to see what will work and what will not work, without spending all this time with the design time and getting the prototype and try to interact with getting the prototype. If you do augmented reality, you can keep what they've got and add on stuff to see if it's working or not. So that would be amazing for research purposes to be able to do that. So it's also bringing like time saving, and the designer can create it, and we can just put it on top of the current software they have, or using the product. AI, my best friend. Advancement of AI and machine learning is incredible. For researcher, it can really help us with our analysis, because we can have transcription of data, audio transcription, different languages. I've been playing a lot to translate and have translation in different languages. And I think AI is great for it, and it's going to get better because, you keep learning and learning. And so, the model keep learning, so it's getting better and better. But what is great for us, it can extract the main theme, which are in our data, which saves so much time. Because in the past, we used to listen to the video, transcribe it, and then go back to it, look at all the theme we emerged. Now the AI can do it for us. So it saves much more time in the analysis. Instead of spending a couple of weeks to analyze the data, actually, the AI can do it in a few minutes. So this is quite incredible. It will save us so much time. And also natural language processing. You can see how people are interacting with social media, how they're interacting with chat, service support. But if you start also analyzing the data, but also when you do a search, you see which type of search people are looking for. It just helps a lot how people are actually going to provide results. It's much easier. Like navigation, the old way of navigation goes through the whole architecture. It's a bit in the past. The future is really natural language processing. So people just type few words and they get what they are looking for. And I've done a lot in several sectors of activity, and that's great. So, of course, improvement on video. We're all working remotely. Who is working remotely at least 2 or 3 days a week? Do you think we could get better conferencing tools? Don't you think? That would be great for us. Or you feel that you are working all together without being all there together? That would be great. So that, I think, would be really good if actually technology could help us to recreate our environment and help us to have a much more elaborated conferencing tool and collaborative tools. As you can see, technology evolution had and will keep having an impact on how we provide insight, but also to help to develop products which are more usable for everyone. So it will keep improving because technology is improving, so we get better data, so we are going to be more inclusive and get better, a wider audience. So we are going to improve a product, but at the same time, when we improve a product, we improve technology. When we improve technology, we are going to need to collect better data. We need to be more accessible for more users. So it's never going to end. It's a circle, and we're never going to stop. So I can really see the difference in 30 years, the evolution of technology, and I don't even want to think of the next 30 years, what's going to be. So we need to be ready for that. So we need to start thinking how to be more inclusive is to take into consideration the end users, their needs, create product which is going to help us to collect the right data, to understand the user need, to create the best product which are usable by everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuelle. That was really insightful. Now, we had a few questions that came in from the audience on Slido, so there's 3 of them. I think we have enough time to go through them, and I'm excited to hear what you say. So one interesting question was about prioritizing features in product development in particular. Yeah. So you do research on inclusivity, but how do you prioritize the features in order to make it accessible for all?
Okay, so that's a very good point. Prioritization of feature is not only because of inclusivity, it's about the business needs. What do you need to do first, but still remain inclusive? So it should not be, you should not prioritize because you need to be inclusive. You need to be inclusive every time. So when you do the research, you need to make sure you take those end users in consideration all the time. And when you go through prioritization, it's a business requirement. You want to think about the return on investment of doing the research, which feature is going to be the more profitable, and what is going to help the users. But actually, inclusivity should be constant. It should not be something you prioritize against something else. It should be including in all the research you are doing.
Thank you very much. Another point you brought up was about data protection and data security. So let me read this question. How have the laws related to data protection affected the quality of research? What is your experience on how that helped but also prohibited maybe understanding the data of users in the first place?
I don't think it's change. Right. The change is very good because we have to protect a user, and as a researcher, it is a duty to protect our data, to protect the users and all the data we have. But now we've got process, how we actually collect the data, how we store them, how we anonymize the data, and it's very important to do that. The thing is, after a while, you need to destroy the data to prevent, any leakage and things like that. But it's not going to affect the quality of the work we are doing. It's just to be much more rigorous, how we collect the data, how we store them, and when we are going to destroy them. So it's just a process.
I bet you work close with your compliance team.
Oh yeah. It's we have to, and everything needs to be documented and make sure we have all the compliance and meeting all the compliance needs for privacy and security. Absolutely.
So one last question from the group was, what are some learnings or outcomes that surprised you when you embarked on more inclusive product development?
I think sometimes we think that if people have special needs, it will be much more difficult, or they won't be able to use technology. But I did a lot of research with people who are actually blind, and I find that actually they are much better at using tools, and you should see them interacting with their mobile phone where the screen is black, so you can't see anything. So they show me the screen for me to be able to see what they were doing. They are so fast. They are much faster than we are. And it's incredible how people actually, they are much more computer savvy than we are, because they had to compensate their impairment. So the beauty of it is, inclusivity and also spending time with people who are from different region, different culture, different way of seeing the world. It's just bringing us, opening a mind. And actually, we can develop new products. like you see in medicine, for example, you realize how you can treat someone by or discover a new illness is by working on people who had a big handicap, understand how people process information by working with people who had, brain damage, and you will understand what is a real process. So actually the beauty of see the diversity is going to open your mind and you are going to see what you don't know. So that's the beauty of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening in with this talk. A big round of applause to Emmanuelle on her topic.
Thank you.